Hello and welcome back to Anapanasati. I think before I start, I want to say again that I'm not claiming to represent a certain lineage of traditional teachers, or neither am I claiming to represent this as a traditional Theravada Buddhist way of Anapanasati practice either. So I realize that the way I'm doing it is a little bit different. Most monasteries do teach it in slightly different ways. This is the way that's been most effective for me as a layperson who doesn't have 8 hours a day to meditate. So I just want to reiterate that I'm doing it in my way. If you want to learn it the traditional way, I would suggest you stay in a monastery for several months and get used to it the traditional way. Or if you are interested in an alternative way, thank you for joining my version of Anapanasati. So, last time we talked about exactly what is awareness of the mind. If you haven't seen that one, I do recommend taking a look at it. And now, as I mentioned before, we go from awareness of the body to awareness of the mind through a certain vehicle, and that is a vehicle of transcendent joy. It's specifically a feeling of joy that is not bound to the body, a feeling of mental joy. And then that intense, transcendent feeling of joy cools down naturally into what's usually translated as bliss. And this is an interesting one. When I first learned this process in a retreat, I did actually come to a stage where the transcendent joy naturally appeared and then naturally cooled down into bliss. And having it come up naturally is really a cool experience. So even if you do it this way, so what I'm doing here is we're willing the joy to come up instead of waiting for it to come up naturally. And that's just so we can continue on the process, because there's a lot of things later. But once you have done it this way, I would recommend go ahead and give it a try, just moving through those sensations of the body and just hanging out there at sensations of the body and awareness of lack of sensation of the body. And see if you can get transcendent joy to just come up in those gaps between sensation. Because it does come up. So what happened to me though at that time is I'd spent so much time getting to that stage, I was a bit confused when I got to mental objects, and I didn't quite know how to continue. So what we're going to do is will the state of transcendent joy to come up. Anapanasati. And I apologize for the background noise if that's disturbing. I had to change position because my tent was also occupied by some hornets who were agitated that I was trying to share the space with them. So I'll give them a chance to leave, and then I'll go back. If you remember back on the awareness of the body, we were anchoring experiences. We were anchoring the sensations of the body, and then on the third finger we were anchoring awareness of the lack of sensation. And just to refresh your mind, this is sensation, this is lack of sensation. Sensation, lack of sensation. So sometimes it's hard to get used to this concept of negatives that's used quite often in Buddhism. but sensation, lack of sensation, and then looking at those spaces. So we anchored those last time, and now we're going to use the fourth finger, and we're going to anchor the transcendent feeling of joy. So let's work on that, just as a specific practice. And you'll recognize that I did this one in one of the Noak sessions earlier. So joy can be used for a lot of things. It can be used for healing parts of the body. So anyway, it's a great ability to have anyway. So we're going to be anchoring joy. Sit down comfortably. And let's just spend a moment at first just focusing on the breath. Get your hands comfortable. Focus on the breath. So once you feel that awareness has grown a bit, so a little bit more calmness to the mind, smoothness of awareness. Bring up a memory of joy, happiness, joy. A memory when you felt really good, really happy, that kind of joy that is really transcendent. So one of your cleanest, strongest, happy, joyful memories. And if one is not coming up to your mind right away, just go ahead and imagine that feeling of a great joy. And get really into that memory or that imagination. How does your body feel? How does your mind feel? Your thoughts? Relive that memory or feel that imagined moment as if it's actually happening to you right now. And go ahead and picture that dial right now at about 10% in the bottom of your vision, and just turn that dial slowly from 10% up to 20% and up to 30%, and feel the joy as it goes stronger, that feeling of joy. The dial is showing your absorption in the feeling of joy. How does 30% feel? In your own time, I want you to turn the dial slowly up again to 50% when you're ready. And here at 50%, just focus on the feeling of joy. Without the memory, go ahead and drop the actual memory. Just what does joy feel like in this clean, pure form without the memory? And keep on turning that dial up slowly on your own time, up towards the 70%. Turn your awareness and your absorption in this feeling of a free, unattached joy so high that it is not attached to memories or the body. It is just pure joy. And bring your fourth finger, your ring finger of your right hand, to the center of your chest. Tap your chest and say, joy. Turn it up slightly higher, a pure joy, beyond the body, beyond memory, transcendent joy. And tap the finger to the center of the chest again and say, joy. And finally, a third time, just let the dial go up as far as you can. And let the feeling of joy just take over your consciousness. And once you have felt that you are holding it as strong as you can, tap your finger to your chest a third time and say joy. Joy. And then hold it just as long as you can. And when you cannot hold this feeling of transcendent joy outside of the body and outside of memory, when you can hold it no longer, just go ahead and drop the visualization. And then just sit and be aware. And as you sit in this awareness, you can see that the joy has receded and cooled, but it still leaves its mark, its after effect on the mind. The feeling of bliss. And just sit and appreciate that feeling of bliss. Go back to concentrating on the breath. Now let's just check the anchor. Get that fourth finger ready. Be ready to tap your heart. Do you feel the joy welling up inside of you? Are you able to increase its intensity? Experience it, increase the intensity again, just like you just did, to the point you cannot take it anymore, and let it fall. And as the intense joy recedes, it cools into bliss. Okay, thank you. So, if that's enough for you for today, then just go ahead and pick the practice up again next time, or take a break and continue with the next video. Or if you're ready, we'll just continue straight on into bringing that together with awareness of the body and using it as a bridge into awareness of the mind. Thank you.